coming this year, tell you a little bit about what I do the rest of my year in other places, tell you about some of the opportunities that are to partner with us on the event, and I'll talk about the Big Duck. And I do a lot of these presentations, and one thing I've learned is that there's lots of questions, so you can interrupt me as I go, or we can talk at the end. Sound fair? Fair. Well, thanks for having me. It's hard to believe it's been 3 years since Tall Ships have been in Duluth. 2013 was our last visit, 2010 before that, 2008 before that. And Duluth has this great place in history with Tall Ships and relationships with Tall Ships. We're the furthest port by a long way for the ships to come to. I think the next closest port to us is Chicago. So it's 7 days for them to sail from Chicago to Duluth, but they love coming here. So recruiting ships is not a difficult thing for us to do usually. Since 2013, well, since I guess the success of that has really given me a great opportunity to be successful. After the 2013 event in Duluth, we did the Battle of Lake Erie Bicentennial, which was really cool and a lot of fun. We took 17 tall ships into the middle of Lake Erie, and we fought Oliver Harry's battle against the British as he fought in 1813. We had pyrotechnics. We had 9 mini tall ship festivals that Labor Day weekend around western Lake Erie. And we had 10,000 pleasure boaters that came down and watched us do the whole thing, which was a lot of fun and amazing. Right after that, we had great success with those 2 events. So right after that, we jumped into working on Tall Ships Los Angeles. The city of LA hired us to produce their festival in 2014, which was, that was the event we debuted our Big Duck at, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But we had 244,000 people at that event, which is actually smaller than the Duluth event. Duluth averages about 250,000 people that come to the waterfront during the Tall Ships Festival. But in LA, debuting that duck, Saturday and Sunday, the event at noon each day, LAPD came to me and said, no more people, you can't have any more people. And believe it or not, in Los Angeles, getting into the port of LA where we did the event is much like trying to get into Canal Park. And I'm not trying to editorialize about the traffic situation coming into Canal Park, but you can imagine that many people, you know, just as during our festival in Duluth, it's difficult. Right after we finished Tall Ships Los Angeles, we went to do Tall Ships Philadelphia last June, and we had about 323,000 people that came to the waterfront there. Has anybody been to Philly before? Mm-hmm. All right, I'll give you a little geography history. Philadelphia is on the Delaware River, and it's about 2,200 feet across the river from Camden, New Jersey. So 2 companies in Camden and 2 companies in Philadelphia came together and hired us to produce this Tall Ships Philadelphia event. So really what happened was we produced 2 giant tall ship festivals. We had these 300-some thousand people that came to the event. We managed to get a ferry service that took them back and forth across the river all weekend. And we had just a stellar lineup of tall ships. We had the Coast Guard Tall Ship Eagle there, which sadly can't really fit into the Great Lakes because of its height, so we won't ever have it in Duluth. But we had the Eagle's sister ship from Portugal, the Sagres there. We had a ship from France. We had a ship from the Cook Islands. And notably, one of the ships that's coming to Duluth next summer, El Galleon and Lucia, was there. And I thought when we added that ship, well, it's a cool ship. If you haven't looked at it, go to our website, tallshipsduluth.com, and check it out. It's a stunning Spanish galleon. It's 5 decks high. It's an all-Spanish crew. It's a female Spanish captain, and they're just the most charismatic, charming people in the world. Well, that ship ended up becoming the real star in Philadelphia. The lines to get on it were about 5.5 hours long. And when I broached the idea of coming to Duluth to them, they said, well, we'll check Duluth out. And they only had to make a few phone calls to some other ships that have been here, and they immediately got back to me and said, yeah, of course we're coming to Duluth. We have to come to Duluth. So some other new things happening this year. We have a really cool ship from Norway coming. The Dragon Head Fairhair is how you say it in English. I don't know how to pronounce it in Norwegian, sorry. But it's a 111-foot, 80-ton actual Viking ship. And it can be rowed or it can be sailed. And if anybody here is a sailor, you know that a tall ship sails at about 5 or 6 knots, roughly 7 miles an hour. The Viking ship sails at almost 15 knots, which is very fast. They're leaving in about a month to start their tour of the U.S. So they'll be with us, and they're exceptionally cool, and they travel with this really large Norwegian Viking heritage village. So you get immersed in the culture of Norway and immersed in the culture of Vikings, which next to pirates is probably the coolest thing I've experienced. So by the numbers, last summer we had our draw events, my company, our 1 millionth customer come to a Tall Ship Festival, which is exciting. In Duluth, we'll hit 1.25 million, I'm hoping. Based on how tickets are selling right now, we will definitely hit that number. But that's a staggering number when you think about guests coming to an event. I mean, I think Grandma's restaurants are the only ones that can rival us with, in terms of number of guests that big. And economic impact wise, that's equaled out to about $84 million in tourism impact since Tall Ships Duluth 2010 at the various ports that we've been to, which is pretty exciting to me. Our overall mission with what we do with Tall Ships wherever we go, be it Los Angeles, Philadelphia, is that it's a destination event. We of course love Duluthians and want Duluthians to come to this event, but what really makes these events viable for the community and pays for them. For example, Los Angeles has a $2.1 million budget to produce the festival. That's a lot of money. But what helps pay for them is bringing in all these out-of-town guests. So, you know, of all the people we do at Tall Ships Duluth, about 9% of those folks are Duluthians. The rest come from all over the place. In 2013, we sold tickets in every one of the 50 states and every one of the 10 Canadian provinces for Duluth. I can tell you Los Angeles hasn't quite done that. We had guests from 28 states, and Philadelphia we had guests from 39 states. So there's another great banner that Duluth has, and it's tourism industry. People want to come here. We have a lot of repeat customers. We get lots of emails and lots of social media posts about how excited people are to be coming. And last night, as I was doing a little prep for this, I went online just to see where our ticket sales are at, and we track almost every ticket that comes in via email address, zip code, state, and there's, again, where it's a smattering of people from every one of the states in the country, which is cool. So I think that's a big pat on the back for Duluth. It's great to go elsewhere and tell this story. I know for us, we're here, we see tourism all the time, and we're happy for it, but I think I tend to take for a little bit for granted how spectacular Duluth is and how on the tourism map it is really an important place for people to go to, and people love coming here. So hats off to everybody that's in that industry and makes it so great, especially the people that visit Duluth have done such an amazing job creating this destination for us. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without that. So one of the things that we learned in Los Angeles is, we learned a lot of things in Los Angeles. It's very different than Duluth, I'm sure you know, but one of the things we really learned is that we've got a great opportunity as this event to support local businesses. And it's just having a little bit of a megaphone and telling our customers who have bought the ticket, here's the other things you can do. Because of the size of the event, because of the ships, it's impossible to go on all these ships in one day, right? So probably, you know, day two, by midday, families getting tired out, they want to do something different. And that's our opportunity to say, hey, here's what else is going on in Duluth. Like in Los Angeles, we did the same thing. The Port of Los Angeles is in a unique geographic place. It's about 17 miles south of downtown LA. And it's in a neighborhood called San Pedro. And there's probably 3 restaurants there. There are 2 attractions. Between them, they brought in $10 million in outside dollars, those businesses did. After the event, I got these phone calls from those businesses saying, my God, you were right. There are all these people coming in. In fact, there's a funny story. In San Pedro, there's the San Pedro Fish Company, which has been in business since like 1956, and this little Italian guy, Tommy, owns it. And before I met him, I'd been coming out to the event, or coming out to LA and doing presentations like this, trying to prepare the community for what's coming. And I knew behind my back Tommy was talking about me, saying Samborski doesn't know what he's talking about. There's no way that many people are coming to San Pedro. So about a week before the event, I got a hold of his cell number and I called him up and I said, hey, you know, we should get together and chat And I heard you've been talking about the events a little bit. He goes, yeah, come over to my house. We're having a barbecue tonight. So I went over there and met him. He's a great little guy. And his fish company is really cool. He sells, you know, it's not like it's a restaurant. It's a fish restaurant is what it is, not like a market. So after the event, he calls me and he said, "What's your address in Duluth?" And I said, "I'm not giving you my address." And he goes, "No, I want to send you a small check as a token of our thanks, because never in my family history of this business have we ever done such revenue as we did that weekend." So the impact that it has, not just on the bigger businesses in the area, but the small businesses, really does, it matters to us. And in Duluth, we have some legacy. So I have a pretty good idea we'll be back in 2019, but I want to keep going to places like LA. I want to keep going to places like Philadelphia and go to new markets, and having businesses like that as a testimonial for us is really helpful. So being in the position we're in now, you know, sort of, you know, running this event, we kind of have this blank slate of things we can do. We can do all sorts of fun stuff. So what we did in Los Angeles was we took the little amount of local businesses we had and we put them on our website, things to do in Duluth, or things to do in LA, or St. Pedro, things to do in Long Beach, which is right next door to us. And it was amazing the amount of traffic those businesses got as a result of it. I don't know that, you know, there's a great Hispanic restaurant 6 blocks away from the event site in LA. I don't know that people would have gone up there unless someone said go up there. So we really learned a valuable lesson in terms of supporting our local businesses. So we as a company, me as a company, I want to hear from everybody that wants any support from us in getting your name out, getting anything you're doing special that weekend. For example, we're doing an event in Seattle in 2017, and the Museum of Glass is doing a glass exhibit all based on water. And it just was a happy coincidence that we're together that weekend. So that's something great for us to promote. But you know, if there's a hotel that has something going on, a restaurant, Duluth Pack, whoever it is, those are some partnering opportunities that you can take advantage of with us, and it's no cost to you. We send out email blasts. Our website gets an amazing amount of traffic. So it really is a great place to be. Finally, I'll talk a little bit about the duck, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit because I'm sure you're going to ask me more questions about it, and there's so much I could talk about. It kind of came about as a dare in a bar in LA. I told you our partner on that event was the city of LA, and Augie, who works for them, he and I were at the St. Pedro Brewing Company one night having a beer, and you know how people get a little booze in them and they tend to be, you know, it's kind of like truth serum, right? So Augie has a couple, and he says to me, he goes, well, you know, you're this Minnesota nice event planner, and you're from Minnesota, but Craig, you're in LA, and it's go big or go home. You've got to do something big. And so this idea of this duck came about, and I said, all right. And he goes, and we'll partner with you. So I said, great. So I went and costed the thing out to have built, and you wouldn't believe what it cost to have built. A lot. So I got a cost. well into 6 figures, I'll tell you that. More than I have in my savings. And
so how much what does it cost?
I can't tell you that. I don't want you to go out making another duck to compete with me. It costs a lot. And anyways, so, you know, this is great. I'm going to partner with the city of LA. They'll help pay for it. We got these contractors to bid. And we looked at it and we picked out the two, you know, one built the inflatable part of it, one built the steel pontoon part of it. So we picked those, signed off on giving their deposits, and now I came back and said, we can't partner with you on it. We can't own a rubber duck. Our city attorneys, and I'm like, wow, that's great. So my hope was I would have been very successful, and thank God so far it has been very successful. It was either going to be really stupid or successful. I knew that there was no in-between ground. And one thing I didn't realize is that, you know, I don't know what it is in today's day and age. There's a lot of niche, fringe, culty kind of things, and there is a cult of rubber duck that exists out there. There was a little over 500 kids that flew from Japan to LA just to stand in front of my duck all weekend with a GoPro on a selfie stick filming themselves. And they wore motorcycle helmets at the same time, and I could never figure out why they did